Okay. Are we live? Are we live? Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devils Experience. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing well. We got a lot of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Manchester United news, and I mean, we got a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He was out speaking. He can officially speak to us, as I'm sure many of you know. He has completed the 25% has been officially ratified. And so we got all of the stuff that would follow from that, which is a lot of quotes from him. I think he did at least one or two interviews. And we're going to get through that. We're going to go through all that. I haven't fully 100% read all the quotes. I've got them all here, and I'm going to go through them with you in real time, live, and react to them live. And first reactions on what he said. I've skimmed through some of them, but I don't know the full context of everything he said. So we're going to get straight into that. Before we do, please drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. We greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And turn on the notifications if you haven't, so you could be here, so you know when we do these sort of shows. And with that being said, let's get straight into it. So, um, let's see. Sir David Brails. This is by Laurie Whitwell. Sir David Brailsford is looking to appoint another executive, primarily to cover recruiting. Julian Ward figured prominently in the discussions. Ward is cautious about the next choice and values the scope of the role. So that's just a little tidbit on somebody that Sir David Brailsford are also looking to bring into the club. They look like they are assembling some type of what people would call a dream team. And yeah, we're gonna see how that plays out. The more experts we get in, the faster the better. So I'm all here for that. um there was a little bit of news that Gary Neville has been invited by Manchester United to join a special committee to oversee the regeneration of Old Trafford and the surrounding area. This broke earlier in the day, and he will be advising, or will be with a group of people that are going to be advising, what they're going to do with Old Trafford and the surrounding area, which I'm here for that. I think Gary, he loves United. He's a big United fan. He cares about the club. He cares about Manchester and the surrounding area and all that stuff. So I think he is a good add to the that committee, and I think his input would be very valid. And I think he's a good human being too. Like, I think he means well. So and that's good. Ex Man United legend of the club. They doing whatever part he wants to help for the club. Obviously, he still wants to do his Sky Sports stuff, and that's cool. I think that's the best job for him. So the more pressing news, where we get into Sir Jim and the in and outs of this deal. Let's start with this, because this is just a one-off tidbit. John Reese, who is the co-founder of Ineos, and Rob Nevin, chairman of Ineos Sport, are confirmed as members of the board of directors of Manchester United, and Richard Arnold left the board last week. So we got Ineos people there. Richard Arnold's gone. I expect John Murtaugh to be out of there soon. If I'm not mistaken, is Darren Fletcher still our technical director? Because if he is, then he's also, I don't know if they're gonna sack him completely. Maybe they just change his position and make him like a coach or something. But I'm pretty sure he's gonna get replaced as well if he hasn't been already. I don't even know if Fletcher's still there. I haven't heard a peep about him, but I know at one point he was like the technical director or something like that, working under Murtaugh. So he would be going too. And I think Murtaugh has got to go. I want this to be a fresh start. I want this to be new. Maybe John Murtaugh, he was never supposed to get the position he was given, and maybe he's better in a certain position. But for me, he's part of that old regime, and I don't want people from that old regime. I want a fresh, brand new start. So I would like to see him go. I would like to see him go. He's got to go. Now we're gonna go into right now Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He said a lot of things, so bear with me. as we go through this, because it is he has said a lot of stuff, but he said some very important stuff. He said some very maybe surprising stuff, and he said some stuff that I do like, and some other stuff I actually don't even know what he's actually said, because like I said, I just grabbed it and put it on this Word document so we could go through it together. So we're going to start with this quote, the first quote, which Sir Jim Ratcliffe said: "We need to look at the organization of the club because currently it is not correct. Let's take the example of the coach. He must report directly to the general manager. This is no longer possible in a modern organization." So that's definitely something positive, definitely something that I think many of us would want to hear, and something that I think many of us have argued, that just the way the club has been set up and running for the past 10 to 12 years is all sorts of messed up. And he's absolutely right. This way, the way that we were operating is outdated. It's incorrect. It's incompetent. It's not efficient. Um, so it's good to hear him say that. It's good to hear him come out and say, listen, uh, you know, in terms of the coach, the manager, there's things that is not making his job any easier either. So he also went on to say, we need to make sure the right people are in the right jobs. Every member of management needs to be world class. Finally, we need to create a positive, supportive, friendly, quality environment. This culture was lacking before. And absolutely 110% spot on. That culture has been missing. That culture has been lacking. It has contributed to the reason why we have been unsuccessful for 11 years. And you can't have that in a place like Manchester United, if you want to be successful. It's as simple as that. And I'm glad that all these things that he's saying here, I'm glad he's come out and said them. I'm glad that he's aware that these are things. He's not naive. He's not stupid. I don't think he was for any second. But sometimes there was a little bit of a worry of how in depth, because he wasn't really in the football world too long. So there was worries of how in depth, um, you know, or how much knowledge he would have associated to this, but he seems very in tuned by what he's saying. And I think what he's saying actually lines up with a majority of the Manchester United fans. Um, so, and this was something I previously mentioned, is that, you know, uh, we needed to hear from Sir Jim. We needed somebody from the club that we haven't had. We needed somebody to come out and tell us this sort of stuff. We needed somebody to communicate with us. And he's done that on his basically his first day that he was allowed to. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy that this is going on. I think they are looking in the right direction. Their nose is in the right direction, and I hope they follow that lead. They have taken steps, small steps towards that so far. But only time will tell. So we got to see, how it progresses. But we take it as it comes. So, but he's absolutely right. Every member of management, they have to be world class, and the atmosphere, the workplace, um, it has to be a positive. It has to be supportive. It has to be friendly, and it has to be quality. I think these are simple things. They're easy open doors for Sir Jim, because we haven't had it. But this is just something that is 100% needed. Um, he also went on to say, only in such an environment can you get the best out of athletes. If we can do that, the results will automatically follow. That's the plan, and I believe in it. And I agree with that too. I believe in that 110%. You need to have the correct culture. You need to have the correct people. They have to have the correct mindset. They have to have the correct attitudes. They want to be they want to have to be there for reasons of to be successful on the pitch and successful as a football club. 110%. So so far, me and Sir Jim, we're 100 for 100 right now. We're dead on, dead par, agreed 100%. So then Sir Jim was mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson and said I talked to Sir Alex Ferguson from time to time. He always has a very interesting point of view, and I always listen to him. Um, so that's good. Fergie's still now. Some people might argue because I know there are United fans out there that they don't like Ferguson still being around and having input. Um, but for me, it's Sir Alex Ferguson. It's he the greatest coach, manager in any sport of every sport in the world during any period. I don't think there's anybody better than him. And I think it would be unwise to totally just shun him out and don't listen to anything he's got to say. Don't listen to any of the wisdom he's accumulated. Uh, you know, I'm not saying Sir Alex is perfect and he's God, but he's very successful and he's very smart and he's very experienced man. And it would be foolish not to listen to him. So I think that's just wise by Sir Jim. Um, Sir Jim also has said, I'm not interested in the financial aspects of this investment at all, really, because I make enough money in chemicals and oil and gas, really. This is not a financial investment. It's because I'm interested in seeing Manchester United being successful again, which I think is a good statement for. It's that's kind of more PR-ish. I don't feel like anybody was really, maybe it's not PR. I feel like nobody was really questioning he's doing it for the money. Because I can't see how somebody can accuse he's doing it for the money when uh there are arguments that he's technically overpaid the Glazers. So if he was doing it for the money, why would he's overspending, like paying for his share. So I don't think there was any of a concern. I think especially since he got it and since he was allowed to start doing things that he's allowed to start doing, I think it was very clear that it's not really a financial motivation. Of course, money does play its part, and if he makes United successful, he does stand to make money from it. But that's how it should be anyway. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you're successful, if you're number one, you should be making money 100%. Uh, so then he went on to say, Manchester United hasn't been successful the last 11 years, but it needs to get back to where it should be, which is at the top of the game. Um, on the pitch is really simple. I think the only interest we have is in winning football matches and competing for the Premier League and competing for the Champions League. So that's our only interest in being involved in Manchester United, which is, you know, what everybody wants to hear, pretty much. And on top of that, he's still, some people might be more cynical and they might not buy into all this. A lot of people will see it as PR, and it is PR. PR is not necessarily a bad word. PR is used all over the place, but there's PR to spin a negative, and there's PR uh to put out your side of the story, and this is PR. But I think he's being genuine in his PR. I don't think he's being sneaky. I don't think he's being conniving. I don't think he's trying to deceive people. I think he's being very straight up and genuine in his statements here. And 100%, I think any Manchester United fan would agree that the only interest that we have is that we want our football club winning matches, competing for the Premier League trophy, and competing for the Champions League trophy every single year, every single time, and it should never falter from that because that's what Manchester United is. That's the foundations that this club is built on, and you know, that's what we expect. And we expect it because we've done it, and that was our standard. That's the standard that we raised those standards. And then we lost those standards, and then other Liverpool and Manchester City took those standards, and some might even argue that they raised our original standards and raised it higher. which is why we need to get back to doing what we were doing and challenge them for it and knock them off, which I'm gonna get to. I might have stole that from the next quote, but yeah, Sir Jim Ratcliffe on Liverpool and Manchester City said, and I love this, and I think everybody's gonna love this. They are the enemy. Nothing would please me more than to knock them both off their perch. That was definitely a page he took out of Sir Alex Ferguson's book. Uh, Speaking to Sir Alex Ferguson, I think he was very aware um, when he was saying that. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. But absolutely, absolutely, let's knock them off their perch, Sir Jim. If you're ready, he's coming out swinging, man. He's coming out swinging. You know, the what his I seen the video, his tone, his voice, his stance, and he looks absolutely dead serious. No playing games, and yeah, I think like I said before, we can't be any worse than we've been. So I expect it to be better. How much better is it gonna be? Is it gonna produce fruitful success? That's a different story. But for sure, things will improve, and for sure we will be better. 110%. There's no doubt in my mind. It cannot be. It is impossible. Uh, for us to be any worse, especially with these guys, and their aim is to make us the best and not to make the most money. He also went on to say about Liverpool and Manchester City, they have been in a good place for a while, and there are things we can learn from both of them. They have sensible organizations, great people within the organizations, a good, driven, and elite environment that they work in. I am very respectful of them, but they are still the enemy. And I like that too. I like that too because you know what? He still, again, he's right. They are our enemy. I hate Liverpool. I hate Manchester City, right? But you can't be you can't be ignorant slash bitter in the fact of denying that they do have sensible organizations. They have good people that work in those organizations. Um, they're driven, and the environment that they created is elite, which is why they are have been more successful than us since Ferguson has retired. And that's something, a big key as to what we've been missing. And I'm glad that he's very aware of this because that means that he knows exactly what is the problem and exactly how he's going to tackle this and how he plans on making the changes to fix this, which is very, very important. It's very, very important. And the fact that he's aware. Like, I know a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, oh, this is just, PR statements. They've probably been preparing this for some time now. Um, but at the same time, he could have said a bunch of fluff, a bunch of crap. The fact that he is aware of problems, the fact that he is aware of certain things, and he's coming out on his first public statement to us, and saying these things is very encouraging because that means that they know, they are aware, and if you are aware, you can handle any situation. So now it shifted slightly, and it went from talking about the club, and he spoke on Mason Greenwood. So we're gonna do this Greenwood section because I think he said a lot of things on this. It was kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting him to speak on Mason Greenwood in his first official talking to us. It is a big issue at the club, at least like between the fan base. It's a very polarizing one. It divides a lot of people. I have my own opinion on it. And I know that it might not even be in the majority. But we're gonna go over what he said, and then we'll talk about it. So on Mason Greenwood, he said it's a fresh decision. I can talk about the principle, but I'm not going to talk about Mason himself. I'm familiar with it. The principle is the important one. We will have other issues going forwards. He then went on to say the process will be understand the facts, not the hype, then try and come to a fair decision on the basis of values, which is basically is he a good guy or not? An answer: could he play sincerely for Manchester United? Well, and would we be comfortable with it, and would the fans be comfortable with it? He also went on to say about Mason Greenwood, he's a Manchester United player, and we are responsible for football. It's clear we have to make a decision. No decision has been made. He is on loan, but he is not the alone. Okay. That kind of confused me a little bit. But we'll move on. You are dealing with young people who have not always been brought up in the best circumstances, who have a lot of money and they don't always have the guidance they should have. I think that's a very important statement. I think that is absolutely 110% true. I think this is something that Manchester United fans have argued between each other about, um, and for good reason, 100%. So I I I I think it's a very very important statement. I also think it's a very fair statement by Sir Jim. I think his approach to this, um whether you want Greenwood back or not, I think it's a very sensible approach that he took on this matter. Now, I would 100% agree with the statement of that you are dealing with young people who have not always been brought up in the best circumstances. I mean, we've heard time and time again, um, the sad, like messed up stories, that professional footballers um have talked about when growing up, before they became professionals, on all sorts of stuff, e- and stuff happens to them after they are a successful professional as well. Just because they're successful professional doesn't mean they don't have loved ones that die. They don't have people that get sick or get ill, or stab them in the back. In fact, they probably, it's unfortunate, but they probably go from one circumstance of dealing with struggle, and the fact of that a lot of them, they grow up poor, or they don't have money, or they have a bad home situation, and then they get into this fantastic opportunity. um but that's why there's the saying, more money, more problems. Because they get famous, they get a lot of money, and sure, it solves their old problems, but then it brings in new problems, and sometimes they're more severe than the old problems. So it's life, man. It's life. That's just how it goes. He went on to say about Mason Greenwood, what we need to do when we have issues like that is understand real effects, not the hype. Then we need to make a fair decision in the light of the club's values. That's what we need to do, and that's how we will deal with it. Which I think is a fair statement. Um, I feel like, I don't know. Some people were reading into it. Some people were saying, you know, uh, oh, he's coming back. Some people are saying, oh, he's gonna sell him. I feel like you can't really read into it like that based off of what he said. I think he walked fairly down the middle. I think he was fairly fair on the issue. I think he was talking not with emotions. I think he was talking with a level head, which might be easier for him than some of the fans. Definitely, because anytime I see this topic pop up online, I kind of stay away from it, because it's like, one, you're never going to convince the other person to your side. People are set on this. You're not going to be able to convince them one way or the other. And also, it's just a very negative story and atmosphere. Like, it just always delves into this, like, nasty, they start attacking the person morally, and all this stuff, and it's just it's never a good conversation. It's never a productive conversation. So, now for me, listen, what he did, or what he was alleged to do, um obviously there was the whole thing with the videos and all that stuff. I don't condone any of that. Now, obviously, I'm very disappointed that he acted in the way he did, and did the things he did. and treated his other the way he did, because at the end of the day, I think people look at Manchester United players and they're supposed to be stand up role models and citizens, and unfortunately, that doesn't always happen because this is life, and not everybody is a great person, right? But at the same time, um, something to similar to what Sir Jim said, I also look at it on the other hand like this is a kid, and I was, his age, and I never done anything like that. I didn't have friends that really. I don't think I knew anybody that ever did something like that or was accused of something like that. Actually, I know two people that were accused of something and it was false. And it never happened. And then that's a whole different story for another time. But the way I look at it is, he's a young kid. I don't think he was looked after properly. I think, like Sir Jim said, he came into a lot of money, he came into a lot of fame, he came into a lot of attention. Who knows how his life situation is with his parents? His upbringing, what kind of people his parents actually are. There's a lot of factors to go into this, and I think, um, you know, number one, his significant other has moved past it and is with him, and people are going to say all types of things about that, but I believe in second chances and I believe in redemption, and I think the kid, i I would not be against it if they gave him that opportunity. Let's put it that way. If they gave him the opportunity, I would not be against it. um and I would love to see him redeem himself, because it's just a shame. He was really talented. It looked like he was gonna take the world by storm. He acted like a fool and an idiot and a moron, and just like unmanly. And he ruined it. And he only has himself really to blame for it. Because he shouldn't be acting like that. But I think he's realized errors his ways, and also he still has a lot of growing to do. He's still a kid, man. Like I feel like when he's gonna be 30, he's gonna look back on that, and he's really really gonna hate himself for that, because he, and he's gonna be disappointed with himself, dude. I think he's disappointed with himself, or he took the time to be disappointed with himself. I think so. Um. But let's move on from that. Uh, So Jim did mention Sheikh Jassim briefly. Weirdly, I don't know what the questions were asked him. I just grabbed the quotes, but he did say on Sheikh Jassim that still nobody's ever seen him. Actually, the Glazers never met him, and he said, "I'm not sure he exists," which I found kind of interesting. But I also kind of feel like that's just Sir Jim messing with him, basically, because he's gonna see that. I bet you somebody's going to show him that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think a lot of people would be like, "Ha, he told you," because there was a lot of people saying that this guy's not even real. He's not real. Um, but I believe Simon Stone later then put out an article, and I think you could go check it out on his Twitter, either him or Laurie Whitwell, but I believe it was Simon Stone that put out articles saying that no, there are people that know him, have met him, and have sat down with him, and they have written papers about him. So he is actually real. So I don't know, but whatever. Uh, so Sir Jim goes on to say, uh, talking about Manchester United again. It's been a complete misery, really, in the last 11 years, and it's just frustrating if you are a supporter during that period of time. That's football, isn't it? It has its ups and downs. I remember pre-Ferguson, it wasn't great for quite some time. For a for a more extended period of time, actually for about 25 years, which is true, 100%. This isn't the longest period that we've been crap in our history. We did go 25 years. So and it is football. I mean, look at Liverpool; they were crap for the whole time of the Premier League up until recently. While we dominated. So these things happen, and this is actually why. Yes, while I was disappointed. Yes, while I was upset. With the way things were being operated and the way the Glazes were doing their work and the way we were performing. Um, I simply, I always had it in the back of my head that listen, we're not going to be shit forever, right? We're not going to be shit forever. That those sort of things just don't happen. It's not going to be forever. How long is it going to last? Nobody knows. I feel like it's changing now. You know what I mean? But yeah, this stuff happens. That's why I always knew, like, like reigns of clubs. There's nobody or nothing on this planet that succeeds forever and ever and ever. There's multiple examples of this in sports. That's why they call them dynasties, but dynasties come to an end. So these things happen. So just like we had a dynasty of being successful, our dynasty of being shit won't last forever. Excuse me, won't last forever either. And it will change, and we will go back to better times. For sure. So he went on to say, we have two issues. One is the longer term, getting Manchester United to where we would like to get it. But there's also the shorter term of getting the most out of the club as it stands today, because we would like to see the Champions League for next season if we can. Which I think is actually two very big challenging challenges. Um, because I think right now we've hit a little bit good run of form. It took a while. We were struggling. We were hopping around on one leg. The other leg could have went at any time, and it didn't. We stuck it out. But we still have a lot of football to play, and anything could go wrong. We just lost Luke Shaw. By the way, breaking news if you didn't know, Luke Shaw is set to be out for a few months, so he is effectively done for the rest of the season. Um, and we won't be seeing him, which has screwed us at left back. And I want to say this: I think the medical department is 110% at fault for this. I think people are going to blame Ten Hag, and I think that's a misjudged blame, because Eric Ten Hag, like, if we all know this, Eric Ten Hag is not a moron. He's a football manager. He's a smart guy. He managed at Ajax. He's managing at Manchester United, so he's not an idiot. He doesn't have like two brain cells. I think he was very very aware of the fact that, hey, Shaw's out injured. Uh, Malassia's out injured, and he bring in Regulon. I think when we got to January or close to January, Luke Shaw was back, right, or just came back, and I think the doctors, I think the medical staff, I think they, I think they messed up on Shaw, right, more than once, and I think they messed up on the timing of Malasia, and Malasia also had a setback, which then screwed over Eric Ten Hag, because he thought he was going to have Luke Shaw and he thought he was going to have Tyrell Malasia available, and now he has neither. And we sent Regulon back, and Regulon is no longer part of our team. So now we don't have a left back. And he also sent Alvaro Fernandez on loan, and I think they're selling him. So, but I don't know if you can cancel that loan. We also have Brandon Williams. So I don't know if they really need somebody. But at that point, it seems like from what he sees, he thinks that either Victor Lindelof or Amrabat are better at playing left back than Brandon Williams or Alvaro Fernandez. Because I feel like one of them would be being called back. Also, the other problem that we have is Juan Bissaka is injured, so we can't take Delo, because we can also take Delo and shift him to the left and put Juan Bissaka on the right. But we can't do that because Juan Bissaka is injured. So now we have a mini crisis going on in the back once again. Because the butcher is out as well. So we just lost like half of our back line at least, and God forbid we get any more injuries, because then we'll be changing the whole back line once again, and it'll be disgrace. Not disgrace, it'll be disaster. So Jim also said, I think the ultimate target for Manchester United, and it's always going to this really, is that we should be challenging for the Premier League and challenging for the Champions League. 1000%. We need to do things well and properly and thoroughly and not rush at it. So it's not an overnight change. It's going to take 2 or 3 seasons, which 100% agree with. Definitely doable in 2 to 3 seasons. And it should be done in 2 to 3 seasons. That's why I say, a lot of people say we are 10 years away from Manchester City. We are 10 years away from Liverpool. I don't think we are. I don't think we are. You're talking about 10 seasons. I don't think it's 10 seasons. I think it takes 2 to 3 very good seasons operated smartly, competently, with people that know what they're doing, with people that have a plan, with people that are determined to be successful. I think that's all it takes. And you have 2 to 3 seasons of that. And I think you will see a huge, huge difference. And I think you will see us close that gap on both of them and even Arsenal, because Arsenal are up there now too. All right, they just haven't been doing it longer or as long as City and Liverpool have been in these past 10 years or so. But yeah, I think 2 to 3 seasons. I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. This he needs at least, Ineos and Sir Jim need to be given like 3 seasons minimum, minimum. 100%. I don't think it should take them any longer than 5. 5 would be my max. Especially, you have to be thereabouts. I'm not saying like win the title, but you have to be there challenging. Like, you have to be there pushing to the last day of everything. The last day of the Premier League, the last go as far in the Champions League as far as possible. So he also mentioned about Manchester City and Omar Barada. He said we had a very adult conversation with Manchester City about Omar Barada. We settled things amicably. They understood why he wanted to take on this challenge. He also went on to say, we have a very good relationship with Joel and Avram. I mean, he has to say it, but fuck the Glazers. Um, who are only 2 siblings we have met, who are the only 2 siblings we have met. There's a good amount of trust between us, and they are obviously comfortable with the fact that we manage the sporting aspect. I it's interesting because it just tells you, the other siblings, they really don't give a shit. They really really don't care. I feel like if it probably wasn't up to Joel and Avram, they would probably sell the rest of their shares. But I believe Joel and Avram have told them they can't do that because then they would lose control. Especially now, because anytime any of them go to sell it, Sir Jim gets first rights and first buys, and since he owns the same shares as the Glazers, with the same power and everything, if the other 4 siblings go to pull out, Sir Jim becomes majority shareholder, which means that he can then effectively probably get Joel and Avram the hell out, which I would pray that happens. Maybe we should continue hitting the siblings of Joel and Avram on their businesses, and because that's kind of stopped now. But he also went on to say, I think recruitment is crucial in modern football. Manchester United have obviously spent a lot of money, but haven't achieved as good results as other clubs. 100%, Jim, because we overspent and didn't have a plan, and we were stupid and naive. So we pissed away and burned money. 10,000%, 10,000%. Which, again, he's aware of that. Very good, very good that he's aware of that. I don't think that means that he's going to be cheap and not sign players for 50, 60, 70 million. I think they'll be more cautious. I don't think we're going to see us spending 80 million on a player like Anthony or a Harry Maguire anymore. I don't think we're going to see that. If you're talking about a very top world class and you can get him for 80 million, for example, like Harry Kane when he went to Bayern, got him around like 80 some million. A player like that, I think he's worth the money. But yeah, I think that we won't see those type of deals anymore, which we shouldn't because they're bad. They're bad deals, they're wrong deals, and they contribute to the club failing, like he said. So he's also said, when I talk about being the best in every aspect of football, recruiting is clearly at the top of the list. Thank you. So our thinking is how we become the best at recruiting in the future. That means having the right people. So you're seeing how this is all tying back into each other. You have to have the right people. You have to do the recruiting has to be correct. You can't be spending stupid money. All tick 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 ticks. At the end of the day, these are words we and me and many people I think in the world. They say talk is cheap. They want to see actions. So we're gonna see actions. You know, we're gonna see actions for sure. So yeah, that's what he's focusing on. 100% recruiting has to be changed, has to be fixed for us to succeed, along with everything else he's mentioned. He has also talked about Dan Ashworth on gardening leave and the Newcastle situation, and he has said uh, I think it's a bit silly, personally. I won't get dragged into that. What I do think is completely absurd. What I do think is completely absurd is suggesting a man who is really good at his job sits in his garden for 1.5 years. Uh, Went on to say, ultimately, you can't really criticize Dan for looking at maybe the most coveted job in football as a sporting director, particularly with the challenge at Manchester United. Oh, listen, called him Dan, first name basis, good friends. We'll see you soon, Mr. Ashworth, I'm guessing. Uh yeah, but also uh yeah, screw Newcastle. You know, they're salty, they're bitter. You know, they're willing to put this guy on gardening leave for 1.5 years. Um just do the deal and get it over with. Get your new sporting director, give us ours, take the compensation, not 20 million, take 10, and, and let's just everybody move on. I mean, we took, not for nothing, we took Manchester City's COO, and it was done within a day. And it was, and we are actual rivals, local rivals, and that was done like he mentioned as adults, and Newcastle over here are throwing a tantrum, want to take their ball and go home and tell everybody to go screw themselves. But they're not even in that position to do so because you know, they could take their ball, we have another ball, pretty much is the situation. So and then Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a message to us, the supporters, and this is kind of long, so I'm gonna read the whole thing and then we can you know, say whatever. So he said, absolutely, our priority is performance on the pitch. We want Manchester United to be challenging for the Premier League and the Champions League. That's what Manchester United is about. It's the greatest club in the world and should be playing the greatest football in the world. Agree? But it's not a light switch. We can't just switch a switch and all of a sudden United play at the level of Real Madrid because they haven't been for the last 11 years. That takes time and a bit of patience. The important thing is that we all observe the trajectory of Manchester United over the next 2 or 3 seasons, and that has to be in a good direction. Yeah. So again, a very level-headed response. And I find no problems with any statement he said. It's not a light switch. There's a lot of work to be done. It's definitely going to take some time. There's definitely going to be some things that don't work out. Um, some things are going to have to be trial and error. You know, we might get in 2 or 3 people that maybe they aren't as good at the job as they thought they were. And they might have to be replaced down the road. And then maybe we get the guys that we actually need and are actually the best of the best. And you know, we keep moving forward. But as long as we are trying to change directions, as long as we are trying to move forward in a positive direction with a real plan, I think we will get there eventually at some point in the next 2 to 3 seasons, for sure. Um, and this is what he's saying. So I agree, and I would like to see my club play better football because sometimes it's very boring and sometimes it's very frustrating when you're playing a team, and this team is nowhere near the stature of Manchester United, and we just don't look like we want to play football, or we don't control the match. It's very frustrating. It's very annoying. I was never used to that. I grew up basically only knowing Sir Alex Ferguson. I was born in '94, and every match that I watched, we pretty much dominated the match. If we didn't dominate the match, it was a problem, and we ended up losing. But those would be to teams like Prime Barcelona, right, or something like to that level. And it's been a very frustrating 11 years to watch this team just show up and not be Manchester United, and play like cowards sometimes, and play unattractive non-Manchester United football. So I hope they really figure out how to fix that. I really do. Um, we're almost through all this. So he also said what you need is the foundation for Manchester United to succeed. And that means having the right organizational structure. That means not having a manager reporting to the chief executive, for example. Um, I love how he's calling this out, um, because I've been saying stuff like this, and I feel like this stuff gets very overlooked, compared to like the football. And I feel like in football it's backwards because a lot of things you start from the bottom up, so you create like the foundation, but in football it's actually the opposite. So, and if the top of the structure is not good, the bottom of the structure is a damn disaster. And it's never going to work, and everything is toxic and everything is bad. So uh that's just a small little tidbit of something that's a problem. Like, the manager should not be reporting to the chief executive. There should be a fucking director of football, that works with the manager and the chief executive. There's a chain of communication. There is a fucking hierarchy. And those hierarchies are there for a reason. There's a reason that every successful team has that setup, and we do not, and we are not successful. So, um, he also said we need to fill all key positions with people who are the best in class. And there's clearly a lot of interest in these positions at Manchester United because they are one of the biggest clubs in the world. I don't know if it is the biggest challenge of my career, but it's certainly the biggest sporting challenge. It's huge, and the club is huge. Everywhere I go in the world, it's Manchester United. Absolutely. Um, it has to be. It has to be. I mean, our club is massive. We are the most probably worldwide entity, in terms of sports. You can travel to any country, any city, any town, anywhere in the world, and you'll find Manchester United fans in it. And not many more clubs. Maybe Real Madrid, maybe a Barcelona. Um, there's not many clubs that can say that you can travel to any place in the world and you will find a Manchester United fan. Um, so we are absolutely massive, and this is a huge, huge challenge, and it is a big, big deal. And we might have been shit, but our history. That's why we stand for something. And the other ones that wear pale blue, they're just plastic. They're hollow. Like, yeah, they okay. You won a treble. You're successful. You won some Premier Leagues. You got a Champions League. Um, but at the end of the day, we're shit, and we still have people, dying to come take a position at our job. The only thing was is that we had people that were hiring people, um, that they didn't give a crap about them, which is why we ended up with people that were bad at their jobs because the only focus was making money. I think Manchester United, and I think they've proved it already. I think Sir Jim and Ineos have already proved that Manchester United still has the pull and still has the allure. If you go and give people a vision, if you give people a project, and you give people something to work towards too, because we already took Manchester City's guy. We're taking Newcastle's guy. We're probably going to take another two, three guys from other Premier League teams. And Newcastle has all the money in the world. And they have their own project, and he could have stayed there. And Manchester City has been successful for 11, 12 years. Uh, he was perfectly fine, perfectly comfortable at where he was. He didn't have to do nothing, just turn up and do his job like he was doing, and he would have been completely fine. And yet they're choosing to leave these places to come to us, even though we've been poor. And it's because of the history of this club. It's because of the reach of this club. It's because of what this club has accomplished. And it's because of what this club stands for and the great things that this club has done. And it's still there, and I don't think that will ever go away. I don't think so. There's a reason why it says, there's a reason why we say we're Man United and we'll never die. Because we won't. This club has been through extraordinary circumstances, tragedies, periods of difficulty, you know, underdogs, and throughout that history, fought through it and overcome it, and went on to achieve great things. And I think this is just another period in the club's history where we will look back on this at some point later on in the future and be like, look how we fell and look how we managed to come back up once again, because that's what this club is. Um, so he also went on to say, to be honest, I don't think I'll ever lose money, and I'm not interested. For me, it's not a financial investment. The goal was to involve and have an influence on the future of Manchester United, which I said, he's an old guy. He's an old guy. He's made a lot of money. He's in the later stages of his life. Um, and as a man, as a successful man, I think he's had influence on a lot of things. But I think to exert influence on one of the greatest sporting institutions ever, before you leave this planet, I think that is his biggest motivator. I think he wants to be remembered, and I think he wants to be known as the guy that came in to Manchester United, saved it, turned it around, and turned it back into one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. Um, he wants that for his legacy. He wants that for his name. And if he does it, he will be, because he will forever be remembered, just like all the other people in the past of Manchester United, that ever owned this club or worked for this club, that managed to help this club achieve great things. They are forever remembered, and they will always forever be remembered. So I think that is his very clear motivator. Like I said, if it was about money, he wouldn't have paid the amount he paid the Glazers. If you look into the financials, um, even if you listen to a lot of financial experts, the amount he paid didn't actually make quite sense in terms of if you're a businessman doing a business deal. So I think he really is in this for he wants the best for the club, for sure. He went on to say, we are very clear about this. Football is our engine. If we succeed on the pitch, everything else will follow, which is, I've been saying this. Goldbridge from the United Stand has been saying this. Terry Flowers from the Football Terrace has been saying this. Uh, everybody's been saying this. It's like the number one thing, and it was the number one thing we never understood about the Glazers, because we always said the Glazers love money. So why do they not understand that the better we are on the football pitch, the more successful we are, everything else will be so much better for them. They'll make so much more money. So and he said it too. It's just true. It's a true state fact. So very important here. Sir Jim Ratcliffe did talk about Eric Ten Hag, and I think this was important for him to come out and say. And what he said is, in quotes, what I would say if you look at the last 11 years, Manchester United have had quite a few coaches. Some of them are very capable and have been very successful. But nobody has been successful in that Manchester United environment for the last 11 years. So that would say to me that there's something wrong with the environment. Thank you, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. Because, like I said, I think we get very, very lost. I think we get very, very lost in the football. I think we get very lost in the football aspect of this stuff. I really do. Because I'm sorry. Um, when the results come in and the results aren't good and the results aren't going great, right? Everybody turns to the manager and they want to sack the manager. They want to sack the manager. Now I've been arguing for months and months and months now. You cannot sack this manager. You cannot sack this manager because all the previous managers before him failed. And it's not like we had a bunch of nobodies. We had a bunch of people that were successful and they just weren't successful at Manchester United. So why would we keep doing the same thing of sacking the manager over and over and over again without changing all the other shit first? Which is what I said before this was announced, and I'm happy he said this because that means, at least the way I'm reading into it, is that he is going to do what I said I believe is the best way to go forward, and that is to change the entire structure above the manager, set the styles, set the ethos and all that stuff, make player changes, and once all of that shit is settled, if the manager isn't working out, then the manager goes. And when you change the manager, the changing of the manager will be like when you get a little paper cut and you just, it's nothing. Sometimes you don't even have to put a band-aid on it. You know what I mean? That's all the manager should really be. If you look at other clubs, not Chelsea, but if you look at other clubs that do this, like for a Bayern, for example, and I know they're in a bad place in the past two manager hirings, but previously before that, the way they operate is Bayern has a philosophy. Bayern plays a type of football. Bayern gets a certain type of players, right? And the manager has to fit into that. Um, they won't go for a manager that doesn't fit into that because it doesn't make sense. Now, when they remove a manager, their club doesn't go into disarray. Um, their club doesn't fall out of the Champions League. Their club doesn't not pretty much not win the league except for maybe this year and an odd 1 year or two. I mean, it happens. They can't win every damn thing all the time. It's impossible. It's just not life. But that's how it should be. That's why we cannot sack Eric Ten Hag. And I don't think I don't think they're going to sack Eric Ten Hag. Even though I think that they might move on from Eric Ten Hag after the third year, because I think that they have their own idea, and I think that they have their own guys that they want to see come in. But sacking Eric Ten Hag, I don't think they should do it, and I don't think uh, it wouldn't solve anything as of right now. I think all the other stuff that he's talked about so far and he's mentioned has to be changed first, so that when we get to the manager, Ten Hag goes, we get a new one in. If he doesn't work out, we could get rid of him, get a new one in. And it shouldn't change much at the club. Like, the atmosphere shouldn't change that much. The our mentality and all that type of stuff shouldn't change that much. There should be slight differences because a manager does have an effect on this, but it shouldn't be so drastic the way it's been for us, where we went from like, Van Gaal to Mourinho to Solskjaer to Eric Ten Hag. Like these are all different types of coaches. Like they all coach differently. They all have different philosophies. They all use different types of players. Which is what it turned into a giant cluster fuck, you know? Um so he went on to say, we're almost done. We're gonna wrap this up because this is long. This is long, but I wanted to cover everything because it's important. It's important and he said a lot and this is the first time that we've actually had stuff said to us by somebody that is like in charge of Manchester United and talking to us and explaining what what their vision is for this club and what their plan is, um, and what they want to see and what they're expecting. So I think it's important to cover. So they've said he said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it's not a 10-year plan. The fans would run out of patience if it was a 10-year plan, which we would. So some people are going to run out of patience after 2 seasons. It's very impatient people. He does mention that he's also kind of impatient, so I think he understands this probably a little bit better than we assume. Um, he also says, but it's certainly a 3-year plan to get there. The bottom line is this is our trajectory. The people see that we are progressing. So, I mean, he's come out and said it right away. He said, listen, 3 years, we'll be there. Judge us on that. Judge us on that. Give us 3 years and judge us on that. And it's a strong, bold statement because there's a lot of problems. It's going to be very challenging. There's no saying that they're going to do it in 3 seasons. It might take him 5 seasons. But he's laying it down, saying, "Listen, we're aiming to do this 3 seasons. Uh, and this is our challenge, and we accept this challenge, and we hope to see you at the end of it." He also went on to say, "The financial fair play has become a new aspect of running a football club. The club has spent a lot over the last 2 seasons, so this has an impact on the FFP going forward, as the club has used up a lot of its allowance. You have to think about how to optimize the club in terms of FFP, and the stadium is part of that. You can increase your income by building a new stadium or rebuilding a stadium. Money does not grow on the tree." Yeah, yep. And I also love that because you're talking about a billionaire. If he's not the richest British person, he's one of the richest persons, right? And he's telling you directly, money does not grow on trees. Love it, love it. Because it doesn't. And just because you have billions, don't mean shit. You could burn through them billions, and you could become homeless fucking tomorrow. That's why you have to be smart with your money. You need to know what you're doing. You have to have a plan with everything that you're doing that involves money. No plan will lead you to failure. And I like this because we have pissed away our money, burned our money, been stupid, operated incompetently, and we've screwed ourselves into this position. We deserve to be here because of the way that we operated as a club. Um, and this guy is 110% aware of that. And this guy is not going to allow the club to operate like that any longer. And he is also aware of how to operate around financial fair play and make the club be able to spend money while also not screwing ourselves into the situation that we find ourselves in. So, that might be something to get out of. Also, I kind of feel like I know we are in some type of financial restrictions. I think they're overplaying this. Uh, but is a smart tactical move because if you keep saying it, if you keep coming out and saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it, well, people will believe it's true. Even I'm not saying it's not true, but what I'm saying is like even when other clubs, like if we go to negotiate, like listen, a lot of clubs right now they're expecting Manchester United new owner. We've been shit. There's a huge demand on Manchester United. Manchester United needs to go and they need to make a big statement. This guy, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, has to go and make a big statement. So he's going to go spend a bunch of money. I think clubs are aware of that. I think people of other clubs are aware of that. I think agents would be aware of that. And I think I think they would try to get a premium out of him. Especially because of the position that our club has put us in. When they go into negotiations, they were always desperate. They were always nervous. They were always incompetent, which led to stupid, dumb deals that got us ripped off and made us look like complete jokes. I think Sir Jim is kind of aware of that, and I think he's kind of playing this card of like, you ever hear people say like, "Oh, that guy's got so much money, but he acts like he's got none." I think that's kind of what he's doing. Like, I feel like we do have money to spend. I don't think we're 100% broke. Um, you know, I don't think we. We don't have 500 million to spend. We don't have 400 million to spend. But I think we have money to spend, and I think they're going to go spend money. But I think they're using the leverage of the fact of like, dude, we're struggling with FFP, so like, we can't really be spending all this crazy money. So that when we go into negotiations, um, maybe the club that we're negotiating with, instead of asking for 80 million, they'll just ask for 50, and then we might be able to negotiate that down to 40. You just save 40 million just from tactics. So we'll see how that goes. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, we've spoken to UEFA. There's no reason for Nice's shareholding to prevent Manchester United participating in the Champions League. I will be very clear on that. So, he came out and said that because there was a lot of back and forth on that. So, that's cleared up. Sir Jim Ratcliffe on Sir David Brailsford. He will be very involved in the future of Manchester United. He is interested in elite sport and performance. He will succeed at Manchester United. Big statement. He will succeed at Manchester United. That is a big statement. But I like Sir David Brailsford. I wasn't too familiar with him before it was announced that he would be with Manchester United. But since that time, I've done a lot of research on him. I've listened to him speak. I've seen what he did. I've heard his thoughts, and I really like this guy. I like his philosophy. I like the way he works. The way he looks to improve stuff. I like all that stuff. So I bought into it, and I think this guy is definitely an expert in the field that he's in, and I think he is definitely highly likely to be some type of successful for sure. I think he will massively help us for sure, and I'm glad that he's with us, and I'm glad that he's on our side helping us. Uh, so Sir Jim Ratcliffe also mentioned a couple things about Old Trafford, where he said what we see so far is a very good case for renovating Old Trafford, probably costing around £1 billion. We end up with a big stadium, probably 80 to 90,000 seats. This is long overdue. I argued, 78,000 seater, fantastic. But I argued 15 years ago, maybe longer. I always said, like, we should get more seats, man. There's no way, dude. 78,000, we could be doing 80, 90, 100 even, probably, if you were able to get it to. Now, I was younger at that point, so I didn't know the semantics that go into expanding the stadium and all that stuff, and there's restrictions here, restrictions there, but I'm saying in an ideal world, like, we could probably do 150,000 seats, and it would still probably be sold out almost all the time, because we have so many fans coming from all over the world as well. Um, so then, Sir Jim also said something on Manchester City, because he was asked about Man City, what if they were relegated for their 115 charges, and he, maybe not to you, but a little bit surprising. I mean, not that surprising, because what is he supposed to say? Yeah, relegate them. But from a fan's point of view, it's probably a little bit surprising because everybody's the opposite. But he said, I would not wish that upon them. I don't understand any of that. I just want to smash them on the football field, which I love because he's like, no, 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 no. He's like, don't relegate them. He's like, don't give them the easy way out. He's like, don't do that. Don't do that. We're gonna build something and we're gonna kick their ass on the field properly. I love that. Love it. Love it. Let's go. Let's go. That's right. We're coming for the plastics, bro. It's time to recycle plastic. There's too much of it. It's bad for the environment of football. And the plastic must be recycled. And I think the plastic will be recycled sooner rather than later. Um, so Sir Jim went on. These are the last couple quotes, and then I'm going to end it because this I know is very long. And if you're watching, thank you very much. I appreciate it that you're sticking around and listening to me, and I hope I am not boring. But he said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe said, at Ineos, we don't mind people making mistakes, but just make sure to not make them a second time. We'll be less compassionate. We've made mistakes, and I'm very glad we made those mistakes before arriving at Manchester United. So I think he's talking about at Nice, because it took them a little bit. They did make some mistakes, and they were criticized for those mistakes. In his attempt to buy Manchester United, there was the argument against him that look at what they're doing at Nice. It's not successful. It didn't go well. They changed managers like 6 times. Blah 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 blah. But that was a learning process for them. I actually think that they used the opportunity at Nice as almost like a it was almost like a training for Manchester United. I think they're going into this very, very more well prepared than now. Obviously, Manchester United is a different beast, but they're going into this very, very well more prepared than when they went into Nice and didn't have like basically a clue. They had to start from scratch. So you know, um, Sir Jim also said we will decide the style of football with the general manager, A plus, because that's how it should be done, the sporting director, and probably the recruitment managers. 110%, 110%. That's how it has to be done. It has to be done. That way, the manager and he said, and the manager will have to play that style. Thank you, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Thank you. We finally have somebody that understands this shit. If they can implement this, we will be successful. 10,000%. We will never see this Manchester United, this 11-year Manchester United that we've been seeing, we will never see this again as long as this stays a thing. As long as they're around doing this, we will never see that again. Because that is, to me, is about like 75% of the problems. 100%. 100%. The manager should be like you removing a scab or something. It should not impact your life. It should not kill you. It should not send you to the hospital. You don't need surgery. You don't need, you know what I mean? The manager is there to manage the squad. If he doesn't manage the squad correctly, you remove him and you get somebody that can manage the squad. And that's it. It shouldn't be like this gigantic change. The problem we had was we had Sir Alex for 27 years. He ran everything. He did everything. He had a lot of power. He deserved it because he was successful and he was fucking great and he was smart. But when that went and we changed everything, we lost all that shit and it just turned into a disaster. Um, so he also went on to say, we're not going to go back and forth between the Jose Mourinho style and the Pep Guardiola style. That's not the way we'll run the club. Otherwise, you change all the time. We won't do that. In modern football, you have to decide with path to follow and stick to it. Beautiful. Beautiful. And the last and final statement for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I think this is the most proper one to end with because I actually love that he said this, and I know that the Glazers don't fucking agree with this at all. Uh, no matter what he says, and I know the Glazers don't look at it like this because they don't, because they're a bunch of selfish pricks. But I love that Sir Jim Ratcliffe said this, and he said, I have always said that we do not own the club. The shareholders, myself, and the Glazer family, we do not own the club. The real owners are the fans, the community, and we are just the club's gatekeepers for a while. Um, which is 100% because it brings the fans on side. He's throwing us a hand. It's also probably PR-ish. But it's listen. We've all argued this. Without us fans, that club doesn't exist. The Glazers don't exist. Where did they get their money from? It's us. That's why when we argue, stop giving the money to the Glazers. Stop giving the money to the Glazers. Um, stop buying Manchester United stuff. It's because they rely on us. They rely. We are the lifeline of the club. If we don't show up to watch matches, if we don't buy the merchandise, this club dies. They don't make money. They can't get players. Players don't want to come play for them. They lose deals. The club goes into administration and ceases to exist. Without the fans, without the beautiful support that we have of Manchester United worldwide, this club does die, and that's why the club will never die because we'll never stop supporting this our club, and that's why it'll never die. But if we did, it would die, 100%. Uh, and so in that statement, he is 100% correct. Like they can be called owners, they can have whatever the fuck they want, but at the end of the day, we are the real owners. If we stop turning up to matches, if we stop watching, if we stop investing time and money into the thing, the club goes away and the club dies, and the club never wins anything ever again. And they don't play football ever again. So I love he said that. Um, the Glazers 100% don't see it that way, for sure, because they're a bunch of greedy bastards. But I just want to say Thank you to whoever tuned in and watched this. If you're watching this after, thank you for watching. Greatly appreciated. This was a very long one. Um, I usually tend to not do these this long or try not to, but there was a lot of information. This is very important, so I wanted to go through all of it. And until next time, we'll see you later. If you haven't already, please smash the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. We'll catch you on the next one. If you got any thoughts, comments, whatever you want, put them in the comment section down below. Until then, we'll see you on the next one. Probably in the next couple days or so, we'll be live back again. Um, Otherwise, have a good morning, good evening, good night from wherever you're watching. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, and we'll catch you later.